Hey, JD here. Welcome to the Mead House. You know, over the past several years, we've brought you over 150 episodes of mead-making education, information, and entertainment. More than 100 guests have stopped by the Mead House, professional mead makers, medal-winning home mead makers, competition organizers, experts on yeast and honey, and brewers just like you and me have all visited to share their knowledge. Hey, the Mead House is produced for home mead makers and brewers looking for a bit of inspiration and information from the many guests and discussions we have here at the house. You can help support the Mead House by joining the Mead House Keyholder Club on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com and search for the Mead House. There's also a link in the show notes. For as little as $2 a month, you can become a keyholder. We've teamed up with some great companies to provide thank you gifts for your support. So get on over to Patreon, join the Mead House Keyholder Club, and get your own set of keys to the Mead House. You can listen to the Mead House podcast with your favorite player, and be sure to rate us 5 stars on iTunes or your favorite listening venue. The Mead House, mead-making entertainment you just don't want to miss. Hey, so we're back. The rooster is still next door at the strip club, and the hens they seem to be pretty content with that new chicken coop of theirs, because it kind of looks like a modern day high-rise condo straight out of the Miami Beach. So enough of that. Anyway, hey, apologize for the mix-up. We didn't get to post a show last week. I was a little out of sorts. Also, Jeff and Ryan had a little bit of a technical mishap, and Sean is kind enough to rejoin us for episode number 215. So, hey, welcome to the Mead House, and thanks for listening to episode 215. You can listen to us on all of your favorite players. You can get the direct feed right from the website, as well as a number of listening locations like iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube. I mean, the list just goes on and on. You know where to find them. They're all listed on the front page of the website, themeadhouse.com. Hey, in this episode, how to keep from having to buy expensive honey. First, you find a couple of willing people, and then you buy a farm. You come up with an area to plant fruit-bearing trees to provide nectar, and then start a bee removal operation to build your first hives. All this while living on an island somewhere in the Bahamas. Sean Harris is here to tell us about. I'm gonna mispronounce the hell out of this, Sean. So I'm sure we'll catch up here in a minute. Wow, Kelly Farm and Supply. Hope I did that right. Hey, in segment 2, Jeff's got a new toy, and I saw the pictures. And then Ryan does an old school propane kettle brew, comparing old school to new school. And of course, in segment 3, this is the social club, where we try to answer questions from mead makers with no formal expertise, other than what we've experienced in our own brew house. All that and more right here at the Mead House. But first, you know how it rolls. Thanks to all the Mead House key holders who help keep the Mead House podcast free. You too can become a Mead House key holder and help support the show for as little as $2 a month. We got some great thank you gifts to send out to you, plus the listing of key holder only content. So get on over to patreon.com, search for the Mead House, or just click on the link in the show notes. What are we drinking tonight, guys? It's Bourbon Tuesday, and I also got a mead. So let's start out with the bourbon tonight. Actually, no. Let's start out with the mead this time. Jeff, I think you cracked this one open a while back. This came in my Sap House box a while ago. This is the Cranberry Sage. Now, I did take the liberty, had a couple of sips before the show started, and I'm going to take another one, Ryan. First off, Jeff, I get a ton of that sage right off the top. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love sage. Good on poultry and pork. This is on the dry side. Of course, cranberry. I mean, if you ever, drink cranberry juice, it's kind of a dry juice. I don't care how much sugar you put into it. But this has got this has got a really nice tart cranberry backbone to it with that sage herb. This is really good. I would put this on a dinner table at Christmas time and have this with my roasted turkey and mashed potatoes and the green bean thing with the little onion things on the top, and of course the yams with all the marshmallow stuff burnt, golden brown on top of that. And then, of course, after dinner, it's an apple pie, pumpkin pie, and a mincemeat pie. All right, I'll stop. Anyway, good stuff. That's out of Sap House Meadery. Of course, Ash, if you're listening, dude, this is good stuff. I would not waste a minute putting that on the dinner table at my Thanksgiving dinner. In my other fest, it's bourbon night here at the Webb Conclave at Mead House Southwest, I guess we determined. Tonight is Michener's, and I've talked about this one before. This is one of the ones that I like a lot, okay? As you've heard in the past episodes, I don't have a list of favorites. I have a lot that I like more than I like others. Because a lot of these bourbons, they just don't all taste the same. And there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that in each one of them that I do like. This one in particular, Michener's, it's a pretty well-rounded. I mean, you get a little bit of everything. You got the caramels, vanillas. You got a little stone fruit in there like peach, smoky, kind of a smoky, and that's coming off the barrel char, which is really nice. And this thing clocks in at 91.4 proof. So it's a little bit up there. If you want to brighten it up a little bit, a couple of drops. Now, I keep a little glass eyedropper on my desk with my water glass. And every once in a while, I'll just drop a few drops of water into it. Now, mind you, I'm only pouring maybe an ounce and a half, 2 ounces at a time, so it doesn't take a lot. But sometimes a little few drops of water opens it up, makes it breathe a little bit more, and boy, you can really get some of those aromas out of there. If you look deep, you're going to get into some of that dried fruit area. Deeper, you can get back into those leather chairs that your great-grandfather used to sit in. This is really good stuff, and I really like it. Michener, small batch, Kentucky straight bourbon. So that's what JD's doing tonight. So, Jeff, what did you put in your cup, bud?
So I have a mead and a beer in front of me, and my mead does happen to also be a Sap House, although I am actually saving that cranberry sage for family Thanksgiving here next week. The mead I've got is Experiment 2109.2, the Ginger Snap. And I actually had some of this when we tried recording last week, but I figured I'd do a repeat here because it is pretty good. The ginger and the honey are in a really nice balance where you get the flavor of the ginger. There's that slight tingle without the real burn you can get with a lot of ginger. The honey kind of comes through strongest at first, and then back again a little towards the mid palate, and then you take another breath after you swallow, and it's really strongly a ginger. It's a really interesting little ride here as far as the ginger kind of peaking midway through and then coming right back to get you. And the honey, the ginger, they play really nicely together. Neither is really fighting for dominance over the other. It's just an enjoyable little brew here. Then in my other glass, I've got a New Belgium 1554. This is a dark beer in the Belgian style that's apparently based on a recipe from 1554. And it's nice. I'm not sure exactly what style this should be. I think it's probably either a double or a quad. It's a darker one. Kind of a little bit of a stone fruit flavor, but it's fairly muted compared to some of the quads I've had, so I'm kind of leaning towards a double. But it's fairly easy drinking. A little bit of toasty notes, but like I said, stone fruit or maybe dark fruit. Just real easygoing, refreshing to back up my ginger snap there.
Wow, that sounds pretty good. Hey, Ryan, you've always got something interesting in your cup. What is it tonight?
Well, if you can't be good, be interesting. So
there you go.
That's what I'm trying. Now my mother-in-law always equipped to the kids is if you can't be good, be great. And I don't know if this is great, but again, we'll go with interesting. Daddy had a busy day, so I hit the Scotch bottle around happy hour, and I didn't want to get on a different train because I feel like once you go down that train, you might need to stay on it until it hits the station, which in my case would be bed. Rather than getting off on the margarita stop and then the beer stop and the mead stop and the wine stop. And
gotcha.
So drinking a Scotch. Now, I did start at happy hour with just I'm okay with being honest, even though some people make fun of me and that kind of thing. It's okay. I started happy hour with a blended Scotch and soda. So just a pretty good blended Scotch. We're not talking like Johnny Blue here, but something a decent little blended and then Scotch and soda. Real nice, refreshing, easy drinking, good to go. Well, now we're a few hours later in the evening, and I pulled out a mason jar.
Uh-oh.
and in that mason jar, I had a little something. I had been gifted a bottle of single malt Scotch a handful of years ago. I don't remember what it was. I know it's awful. I do not remember the single malt Scotch I was gifted, but I didn't care for it. I don't remember the brand. I don't remember the region, but it wasn't one I cared for. I don't want to say it was like overly smoky or anything like that. It just, there was a little something in it that I've been around long enough now to know what I like, what I don't like, what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy. And I just had this bottle. I said, I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not going to choke it down like a youth just because I have it. If I'm not going to enjoy it, I'm going to, So anyway, here's what I did. I had, one of my favorite bottles of Scotch is the Caribbean cask, the Balvenie 14 Caribbean cask.
Excellent stuff.
And I had these Craftmeister barrel chips. Now, Craftmeister has barrel chips, and supposedly they're from different barrels. You can use a cognac barrel or a brandy barrel or a whiskey barrel, and, to throw in your beer. Well, I had a package of rum chips. Oh. And I thought, well, what the hell? Let's throw these in a big mason jar, pour the bottle of Scotch in there, let it sit on that, and we'll make our own rum barrel Scotch.
There you go.
Well, I set it in a mason jar, put it in a cupboard, forgot it existed. I think it was in there about 3 years. So I found it. I opened it up and I said, well, I've now either got a 15-year Scotch.
Now you can qualify it, right?
Yeah, I either got a 15-year Scotch here that could be pretty good to drink, or I'm gonna have a the plywood whiskey. and I might have to throw that into another drink. I'm going to take one more sip of mine since I'm the guy that calls everybody out on it, but I'm going to what the hell, everyone else has been doing it. It's picked up more color, it's picked up more tannin, but damn it, isn't it if it isn't delicious?
Wow.
3 years ago, I didn't care for this. 3 years ago, I didn't care for this Scotch. I threw it in a mason jar with a 5-gallon worth of Craftmeister's, rum chips that probably cost like $4.
Yeah.
And it is good drinking. It's delicious. I enjoy it. Very much a fan. I could put this. I could put this in a like a blind taste test, and it would. I think I'd fool a lot of people.
Rank right up there, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
this goes to show what $4 worth of wood and 3 years of negligence will do for you, huh?
There it is. So, last week, we had this, we had a guest on the show. Jeff and I recorded. We sat here for 90 minutes, and the guest was with us, and it was a fantastic interview. Probably excellent in content. We joked. Our jokes landed. Good content. Great storytelling. Magnificent information, and we lost it. Now, I sat around for about 3 days moping around, and then, about this, and then I realized that how kind our guest was. This guy was so kind. He was willing to give us more time and come back and do it all over again. So I'm going to reintroduce our guest for the second time in 2 weeks, even though it's only the first time that
anybody's heard it.
Hear it.
Yeah,
and we'll see if we can come close to what we did last week. Sean Harris, Waiokele Farm and Supply, started out as a 3-man operation. His father, himself, and his middle brother. I didn't get to ask him last time how many brothers he had. And middle brother. I mean, by height or weight or age or what does he mean there? We'll find out. Because he loved the taste of Lehua honey, they were purchasing it local at exorbitant rates and decided they should start their own hives when they bought the farm. It took them a year to clear the farm, another 2 years to plant the fruit-bearing, nectar-available trees. And when they started, they did bee removals to get their first hives. He started commercial beekeeping at 18, just out of high school for a local producer. Spent 2 years learning equipment, harvesting techniques, bee treatments, and honey processing. He's very proud of his father and himself for analyzing, deconstructing, and innovating techniques to keep the bees ethically, organically, clean. Excuse me. Let me say it again. Ethically, it's a live show, folks. It's not really, but we
live enough.
We're live enough. Very proud of the innovative techniques to keep the bees ethically, organically, and as clean a standard as required by law, and then some. The ethic has always been geared toward food production. If I won't eat it, I won't share it, and I won't sell it. That is, excellent. Just it's so good to hear that. Sean, JD stumbled through the name. My Hawaiian is also subpar at best, but you've seen this guy. You've seen, well, maybe not him, but you've seen his honey. If you're on the Mead forums, if you're on the Mead websites, if you're on the Mead pages, you will see his bags of honey. They're shipped in bags on next to medals from some of the biggest competitions, where guys and ladies are consistently saying, I bought this honey and I made this award-winning mead with it. This is excellent. We're so happy to have him with us for a second time. Thank you so much for joining us again, Mr. Sean Harris.
Well, thank you guys very much for having me back. It's a pleasure. It actually gets me away from the farm from working.
I won't tell your dad.
Yeah, he is at home. It's almost the end of the day. It's about 4:24. It's actually a little bit of a rainy afternoon. I actually checked before I left home. It was like 74% humidity and like 84 degrees. So it was a little muggy.
4:24. So So wait a minute.
Well, the Hawaiian time.
Why did I get Bahamas?
JD, you were just thinking of
another island.
You were wearing your Bermuda shorts.
I guess. Maybe I got it from. I don't know where I got that from. But anyway, okay, Hawaiian Islands.
So I realized I got to get back to this now that Sean's with us and he can hone in on this. But I didn't read the rest of the paragraph. I apologize. Over the last 18 years, Sean has honed his palate to taste various nuances in his honey. He's constantly looking and memorizing different floral sources throughout the year so that he can be aware of the incoming nectar flow. His honey varietals are based on his personal palate. He tastes every honey before labeling primary nectar source. What another company may call coconut blossom most likely will not taste the same as what Sean will label coconut blossom. His operation is still a 3-person job, but now his wife instead of his brother. Good trade. He's made mead since 2013, and in 2020 decided to branch out into the online world, and has enjoyed the journey with new friends, recipes, and discoveries made. So that's where I was getting to on shipping all over and doing all those kind of things. And I didn't want to discount because I'm already thinking about last week that he's not just a beekeeper; he is a mead maker. And has all of the amazing, delicious honeys at which he's done that from. I mean, we talked about Lehua, coconut blossom, macadamia, some orange, Hawaiian orange, lemon, tangerine. I mean, there are so many amazing honeys, and they're very, very Christmas berry. That was the other one we were talking about. Very, very cool stuff. So, again, I'll say it. Well, thank you for joining us again, Sean, on a rainy Hawaiian afternoon. And we typically ask people what's in their cup tonight. Sean is doing a bit of a hardship because he actually has to drive to park in an area that he gets reception. He lives in a national forest or a state forest or something, and doesn't get the best reception there. So that's why I'm gonna forego maybe asking him what's in his cup, but I'm sure he'll enjoy a nice glass when he gets done recording.
Well, okay, Sean. So, what is your favorite mead to drink? If you had a glass with you, what would it be?
My go-to, really, I wasn't a honey fan until I tried Lehua honey. It just really has a sweeter flavor. The profile is very aromatic. There's a lot of florals in it. It's something that just drawn me into the beekeeping world. And really, I had like one bee sting in my life before that. Lehua Traditional is always my go-to brew. I've since watching everybody, of course, doing all their special brews on all the groups out there, I've actually started to branch out and try different recipes. Of course, I'll do Melaleuca, which is a real smoky paperbark tree. Flowers have just this. It smells like you'd oaked it before you even, done anything to it.
Oh, really?
It's a real mead. That's really special. The Lehua is special. The citrus blossom honeys are always fun, but Lehua, if I get a chance and I'm like picking what I have available, it's always Lehua. But yeah, I just recently made a batch of Mamane blossom, which is a small Hawaiian shrub with golden orange flowers, and it has an indistinguishable buttery note to it. It's just very, very pleasant. Actually, I'm excited for that batch. I did it with stock anise, Ceylon cinnamon, allspice berries, and a couple of other things that kind of slip my mind right now because I'm thinking about how delicious that mead would be. I added some pineapple juice to it, so I've just kind of been excited about what everybody else is doing, and I tried to make my own twist on what ingredients I have available locally. And actually, I get a few friends that out there, they send me some really nice spices, and I'm just really not knowing what to brew with it, and I just kind of throw it together, hoping it'll be good.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah, Lehua tradition, it's like something, when I brew it, my last brew was a 40-gallon SS brew tank of it. I think I'm down to like 5 gallons now, but I brewed that last summer.
So let's talk for a minute about the Lehua honey. I have no idea what it is. I've been to Hawaii a couple of times, both a long time ago. Ryan was probably still in diapers back then. The one thing I do remember are these wild looking flowers they look like bird feathers. And the plant life was just amazing. So what exactly is I'm assuming that comes from a Lehua plant or a Lehua flower, or what is that exactly?
Yeah, so the Hawaiian name for the tree is ohia, and the flower is called Lehua. And so commonly referred to as ohia Lehua honey. And it's a native hardwood tree that grows everywhere from the lowest elevation to, I guess the highest elevation I actually put the bees is 5,000 foot over in the south of the island. And you'll notice a variation from the quality of it accordingly, because it's I believe it's Polymorphus metrosideus. So the name, basically it infers that the tree of many forms, tree of many shapes. Wow. As you'll notice in the low elevation trees, they have a different structure than ones in the higher elevation, or ones on the wet side compared to the dry side. And so every single area that you can produce Lehua blossom honey will be different. Ka'u, Kona, Puna, Hilo, Volcano, the moisture content of what the trees are receiving, the sun, but also the volcanic ground will vary so much in its areas. You'll notice that up the coast there's red soil, has a lot of hydrous oxides inside of it, so it influences the plants differently up there. And we have basically every microclimate except for Arctic tundra, so you're going to also have accents of other wildflowers that are going to combine with I call them primary pollinations, because some people are like, how do you know that the bees are going to get only that? And I'm like, well, definitely they're not, but that's going to be the primary pollination of what the bees are collecting. And so when you taste the Lehua, it particularly has a nice acid content to it. So a lot of people say that it has a pineapple flavor to it.
Oh, wow.
It's really a unique honey, and anywhere on the island that you have the honey from, you'll never have it the same typically twice. Even springtime up at my farm, there's so much guavas that even though the Lehua honey will be present, and it's like the whole forest is just mostly Lehua, but you have these guava trees blending in and adding just really nice profiles to it.
Wow. I remember years ago when I was there with my father, we were on Maui, and I remember going up to Haleakala all the way to the top up there, and you talk about different climates. I get that. We were in short sleeve shirts and Bermuda shorts, Ryan, and we like to froze to death. The weather was so different when we got to the top, and I remember it being above the clouds. You couldn't even see the ocean, so wildly different climates from top to bottom. And I don't remember what the elevation was, but it didn't seem to me like it was all that much. But interesting. I am kind of anxious to try some of that Lehua honey, Ryan. I don't know about you. Oh,
yeah. I'd love to try some of that. And, I know that you see all these there's the macadamia nut and macadamia honey and coconut honey and Christmas berry honey and all those kind of things. But, one of the things we touched on, and Sean, I'd love you to tell us again, is that, you've got Hawaiian orange blossom honey. And that is going to be different than California or Florida orange blossom honey. And I'd love if you could just talk to us a little bit about that again.
Yes. So the south of the island is actually quite famous for the Ka'u Gold oranges. That's about 50-acre, I think at least 30 or 50-acre farm. It's a really massive farm down there. My bees aren't located directly in it, but they're kind of, stealing the nectar, helping the farmer out pollinating. They're just down the way from him. Mm-hmm. My buddy's got lemons and tangerines on his farm and some coffee. So, this particular crop of coffee blossom that I have is a nice coffee citrus mix.
Oh, wow.
The soil content down there is what gives the flavor to the Ka'u Gold oranges, and it's really juicy. It's not like your typical California or Florida oranges, which are just as amazing, but in their own aspects. I actually grew up in Southern California before we moved to Hawaii and decided to be farmers. And so the oranges out here, it creates more of a mineral.
Wait. How do you leave Southern California and go to Hawaii and suddenly decide to become farmers? I mean, somebody from Southern California to Iowa and suddenly become a farmer, I'll buy that. But how do you go from Southern California to Hawaii and suddenly become farmers?
Well, my father is the father of 3 boys, 3 teenage boys, and he raised us as a single father. As things in life happen, and he had to take care of 3 boys, and I don't think we were that easy to take care of in the city. Move us away from all the trouble and put us into a better lifestyle. He literally sold everything so that way we could come out here and just idle hands. Of course, that whole scenario.
Yeah.
Our hands were occupied getting in trouble in California, and so when we moved out here, we just had a whole different lifestyle, a different aspect of what we were doing and exposed to. And I'm the youngest of the 3. My oldest brother, he doesn't farm. He went into construction and other things like that. So my brother, he was hand in hand with us for a while, and he kind of wanted to get away from the farming life for a little while, and he always talks about wanting to come back and do the bees with us and everything. Sure. And I'm pretty sure that was after I started making mead that he decided that.
Yes. I just say, because I'm an old farmer I left Southern California and went to Colorado and became a farmer, rancher back there for a good many years. So I just thought it was kind of funny. I mean, who the hell leaves Southern California and goes to Hawaii to be a farmer? Nobody. So you're the first one I've met. I think that's the coolest thing ever, dude. Let me tell you.
It was a life changer, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I'm a
good
happy farmer.
Good for you. I tell you, there is nothing more that brings you closer to I don't want to get all religious, but there's nothing more that brings you closer to reality than actually working on a farm, a place that actually gives the things that we need to survive to you based on your work ethic and your ability to work the earth and grow the things that we need to eat. I mean, my hat's off to you. We raise we raise cattle, amongst other things. So I get the whole thing. I understand it fully. Believe me. Back to the honey, this orange blossom. I'm curious because I live in Southern California as well. I'm up in the Sherman Oaks area, up in the valley, San Fernando Valley. If you remember where that's at. So oranges, okay, we're talking just north of me, Fillmore. You get up into even southern central California, where a lot of the orange groves are. So we're talking Valencia oranges, navel oranges. That's pretty much it. How different are these Hawaiian oranges than, say, the Valencia oranges that we're so used to here in Southern California?
So they actually do grow the Valencia in the south of the island.
Okay.
That's predominantly the favorite just because of how juicy it is.
Mm-hmm.
But with the volcanic soil, it imparts more of a fruit-forward flavor into the honey. The tannin, it's typically darker than most orange blossoms. It has a very nice floral nature, but it's more of that fruit-forwardness to it.
Yeah. Now, earlier I mentioned, when my father and I were there, I remember going to botanical gardens, and I think there's even an arboretum out there. This is on the road to Hana. I believe there's an arboretum right off the road there, and what a wonderful place. I mean, we saw plants and flowers like you wouldn't believe. And I was so taken aback by these flowers. I mean, they were huge, but the most beautiful things I've ever seen. They look so delicate, like bird feathers almost. So these flowers and plants, are they used by the bees now? Am I in the right zone here?
So there is quite a diversity in flowers out here, and there's a lot of minor pollinations that the bees will actually accept. And there's a surprising amount of flowers that the bees just have zero interest.
Wow.
Really, I would hope that they'd pollinate pineapple, but the flowers are actually too small for them to get into. They would get pollinated by different moths with long tongues. And now and then you will see seeds in the pineapples, which is, I don't know if you've ever seen pineapple with seeds, but it's something else.
No, never have.
Yep. And so they don't get off of there. They will actually pollinate banana trees, but a lot of the times they just don't prefer certain things. There's flowers that when they are open are so attractive that the bees just don't want anything else. The Ohia lehua blossom, it looks very similar to bottle brush, except for elongated. It's more rounded.
Okay.
And you literally pick the flower and you shake it into your hand, and it's just a bounty of water clear nectar.
Oh, wow.
And that is just when that's open, the bees don't have much interest in a whole lot of other things. They'll collect little minor wildflowers, but mostly for the pollen sources, is the nectar off of those are so alluring.
Gosh, what I am, wow. I need to go to Hawaii and experience some of this honey. My Lord. So there's another plant that is common out there, the orchid, right? Vanilla bean. Do bees go after the orchids at all, or no?
Very unfortunate. The bees will not be able to pollinate the orchid.
Wow.
There's specific reasons why there is stingless honeybees in different parts of the world, primarily in Mexico. It's a Melipona honeybee, and that one, it doesn't sting. It's real tiny. I guess they're very difficult to keep because they still have all the common pests and diseases that regular honeybees have, but those will pollinate the vanilla orchid. And yeah, we have some vanilla plants, but it's just a labor of love. I mean, you've got to be out there and pollinate it within a few hours of it opening and hope that it sticks. And I don't really do a whole lot of vanilla. Actually, I maybe have like 100 plants.
Yeah.
Not like the coffee where all the coffee flowers, the bees pollinate that, and the nectar from that is very nice, bold, rich. It's like maple syrup and coffee and other. I heard it. Good Braggot.
Oh, Braggots, yeah. I don't know if Jeff and Ryan, if they had talked about the coffee thing here at the Mead House. It's kind of a funny story. I won't go into it now, and you're welcome to research it on. I just go to the search thing and type in coffee mead. It's kind of an inside. Actually, it's not even an inside joke anymore. It's just a big joke here at the Mead.
Yeah.
So, but anything coffee, we're always interested in. So, this sounds like a go-to. I mean, what the hell, Ryan?
I have folks that they particularly try it, and they have recipes for the coffee, and Nut Milk will do for that recipe.
Well, you know what? I'm game. I'm game. It's not that I have quit trying to make coffee meads. I just really haven't come up with a good combination that I really like. I mean, I like other people's coffee meads. And I don't know, I'm not ready to just, be satisfied with just that. I mean, eventually I would like to get back to making, a decent coffee mead. So, you're on my list. So let's get into mead making here a little bit. Sean, you started this out when you were just 18, right out of high school. How long after that did you start making mead? Now I'm dating you, right?
I believe it was, let's see. I guess that was when I was 25 years old. When I met my wife, well, we were dating at that time. A buddy of mine that I'd learned some of the ropes of beekeeping is, you go to one person and you learn something, and you go to the next and it's going to be a totally different rule of thumb. Mm-hmm. I learned commercially when I was 18, but all of my friends out here are ages older than me, and that's always the best thing, because the high school kids weren't really getting far in life, going out partying, and I'd rather bring the party to my family, my household, to, realistic. It was very eye-opening learning from my buddy. He was like 75 or 78 years old, and he had taught me old school mead making. He had put honey, bee pollen, yeast, all that, and then he would stir it with his whole arm and everything inside of a pail, and he would make it with his natural yeast too. And he's entered into the Kona Brew Fest year after year after year, and everybody's just like, wow, he has amazing mead. Real simple stuff I learned. I eventually got away from just using only bee pollen, because every now and then, you'll get some rogue yeast and you're like, okay, well, this could have been better. Mm-hmm. The bees, they'll collect pollen from anything. So when you have it in such a high concentration and just the bee pollen for your nutrition, that was, my go-to for like 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Since 2020, it has been such an evolution for me, because we used to be able to go to the farmers markets. I'd sell little 2-ounce honey bears, $2, $3 each. Sell little 10-ounce jars of honey for $10 or $12 each. So I was getting real premium for my honey, even specialty things like the Mamani Blossom. I would do a little 3-ounce jar for $12, and I'd get $16 to $48 a pound off of my honey. And, after so many years of doing it, I paid for all my bee equipment. I paid for everything substantially. I'm selling it a lot cheaper and happily, because I've built, a lot of what I have available to be able to work with.
Yeah.
And I have 300 hives right now with my father and my wife. So not doing the farmers markets since the COVID has enabled me to get back to, when I was like about 21 years old, I was up to like about 225 or 250 beehives, and I was doing it just 7 days a week. I wasn't doing the farmers market. My middle brother was, and so when he stepped away from the game, I had to step into it with, my wife and everything. that.
Sure.
And so logistics on everything had changed. 2020, I just had a hardship of finding packages locally. You go to Walmart and you stick 10 cases inside your cart, and a little old lady is trying to fight you for one of them, and you're just tired of that.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, I want one, and they always see you with it. I'd go to Target, and buy 100 cases, and nobody
Wow.
else has. Just, we evolved into bagging honey, because first off, it's so much easier for me to not have to go to Walmart and Hilo. It's an hour drive each way.
Yeah.
Logistics on everything are just so much easier for me nowadays, because then I just get to talk to everybody, on my own time when I'm not working, and ship it.
So your meads, do you have you're obviously into commercial production of mead. Do you have a specific line of meads that you make all the time, or are you more of an experimental type meadery? Do you kind of vary your recipes from time to time?
I'm not quite professional.
Okay.
I actually make large brews, and anybody that I know, I give it to by the volume. Even my brother, I usually bring him a 5-gallon bucket so he doesn't have to buy alcohol, and I cook with it almost daily.
Okay.
I don't actually, have a commercial application of it. I just enjoy it.
So you're that's fine. You're still like the rest of us, home mead making. That's kind of the basis of a professional meadery, and that's where they all started anyway. So and I think that's actually more fun, because once you turn it into a job, then you get a different task at hand. For those of us that are still treating it as a hobby, we can experiment, with one variety, and if we don't like it, we can toss it and use something else. So I think that's you can't necessarily do that when you're a professional meadery. Jeff, gosh, dude, we're like way into this. Have you got anything more for Sean? Sean, would you be willing to come back and do another show with us?
It would be a pleasure.
I don't think we're done yet, but we've got a 90-minute time window here, and we've already used up more time in this segment. But Jeff, have you got anything more for Sean?
So usually, Sean, we ask the mead maker at home, like what they've learned along the way and things like that. Any surprises that they've come up with. I kind of want to go on a little bit of a tangent there and say, with all the different varietal honeys that you're harvesting, have you had any interesting surprises or anything fun that you've come across that just blew your mind over the course of beekeeping or mead making?
Most of the time I end up, I'm not a professional when it comes to mead making. I try to pretend like I know what I'm doing, and what my biggest thing is I have to learn a lot more about the yeast that I'm using and everything, because being in Hawaii, going to the home brew shop, you basically get a choice of Premier QB or the Red Star, whatever there is, and it could get a lot more exciting than that. And I just did a QA23 yeast on my recent batch. A lot of the times I end up just running my stuff dry because my yeast really love the honey. I have to learn a lot more about step feeding and different things like that. Back sweetening is always something that I love to do, and on a recipe basis, one of my favorite go-to recipes, I like to back sweeten. I'll take whatever honey that I particularly want to back sweeten with. I will slightly simmer it to about 115 to 120 degrees inside of a double boiler, and I add rosebuds, pomegranate arils, elderberries, lavender, and vanilla.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Wow.
That's favorite.
Wow.
Now, you're not worried about driving off some of the aromatics of the honey, taking it to that temperature?
That's only just for the back sweetening of it, particularly at 110 to 120 degrees in a double boiler. I haven't noticed any, dramatic results on it, as all the honey that I add in it's going to be all raw, but then back sweetening of it. For me, the reason why I do that is kind of a cheat for my time, so that way I don't have to fish a bag out afterwards or, worry about where my spices are when I'm racking it. Particularly, I like the SS Brewtech tanks because most of the time I just end up drying, a little bit off, at a time. And I know everybody is concerned about headspace and everything like that for the quality of the mead, but like I said, I'm not a professional. I just kind of just for fun, and that's, I end up bottling when I can, but most of the time my batches don't even get bottled because they're
I think we've all been guilty of that too. Just drink it right out of the fermenter or right out of the secondary, right?
Well, hell, we're all about time savers.
I'd like to rack it at least once.
Yeah, pity the guy that gets the crub out the bottom of the carboy, right? Oh my God. Oh, Sean, we got to have you back again, my friend. This is I got so many more questions, but we're running way late on time.
So, guys, before we let Sean
go ahead.
Sean, you've got to let Mead House Nation know where they can order your honey.
Yes.
And get some of that.
Yes.
So the easiest way to contact me would be through my email, and that would be ISLEBUZZ, that's islebuzz @gmail.com.
@gmail.com. Okay.
Yeah, I consider myself a professional honey maker, but not quite a mead maker yet. I'm a maker, but not a pro.
Sean is also on Facebook. Sean, I don't, Sean Darrell Harris on Facebook, and Waiokele Farm and Supply, or Island Buzz Apiary, if you might find if you search both those. So if you're on Facebook, you can find him on Facebook. Or just shoot him the email. But like I said, guys, if you don't know Sean, you've seen his honey bags. You have seen honey bags on the forums, on the pages, in the communities, where people are holding these bags, sometimes just to show off the cool honey they're working with, and a lot of times next to some pretty big hardware that they have won. By turning that delicious honey into medal-winning mead. So give it a shot, give it a try. Jeff has tried some of his.
Oh yes,
and is a fan.
Bags, and yes, they are fantastic.
Wow,
I can definitely vouch for the quality.
Thank you.
Good stuff. I almost feel obligated to read the opening over again. So how about this? How to keep from having to buy expensive honey. Hey, first you find a couple of willing people. Then you buy a farm and come up with an area to plant fruit-bearing trees to provide the nectar. Then start a bee removal operation to build your first hives. All this while living on an island somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, not the Bahamas. Sean Harris is here to tell us all about. I probably butchered the name in the very beginning. I'll do it again. Waiokele Farm and Supply. Did I butcher it up? Say it, John.
I married a Hawaiian lady, and yeah, I butcher words in front of her all the time. I probably butcher my own name to the company. We live on the Waiokele Forest Reserve, and I probably even said it wrong myself.
Wow. Okay.
I probably overpronounce it, I'm assuming, but yeah, a forest reserve is what we're naming our farm after, primarily we were a farm supplying dragon fruit and other items before I actually started to do the bees. And
oh yeah.
So we,
okay.
That I had a few beehives at first, and I wouldn't sell any of the honey until I finally got up some numbers. By the time I got to about 10 hives, then I had enough to sell a little bit at a time, and just escalated from there. By the time I was 21 or 22, I invested basically every penny I had into more hardware for the bees, and to over 200 hives, and right now I'm about 300 hives.
Good man. Again, I want to have you back. I want to have you back, and I want to try to do it in this segment, Ryan. Even if we had to add one more show, I want to get into more of the mead making with Sean and some of these, well, from our standpoint, exotic honeys over there in the islands. I want to hear more about the mead making aspect about it. So, Sean, Ryan will be in touch with you again, and we'll set you up for another opportunity to come back here on the Mead House, and we'll talk further about the mead making end of your operation out there. But thanks so much for joining us here tonight. I had some medical issues I had to deal with last week, and Jeff had experienced some technical difficulties and everything, so I really felt bad about the whole thing, and I know Ryan and Jeff did too. But thank you so much for spending time with us here tonight, and I certainly want to do it again with you.
It's been a pleasure, and when I get home, I have some Lehua Blossom honey mead that I had racked onto some. I know I've been knocked about not putting it onto fruit and everything like that, but I just wanted some sweet. I racked it onto some gummy bears and vanilla beans. I thought it was a full treat.
Okay, I want to hear about that the next time we talk to you. Gummy bears and vanilla. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, Sean, thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sean. Mahalo.
Okay, so that was my first experience with him, and we didn't get nearly as far as I would have liked to with him, and maybe that's my fault. I was just so interested in what he was saying about his whole operation, and I dig it. I mean, I have a lot of respect for people who go out and plow the ground and make it go and help provide other people with nutrition and that kind of thing, and are okay about getting their hands dirty. So Sean, thank you again for joining us tonight. So Jeff's got a new toy. And Ryan does some old school stuff and compares it to some new school operations. So let's start out with Jeff. You got a brand new toy, dude, and I saw a picture of it.
Yes, I did. So, long story short, those of you that have been listening to the episodes know I've been talking for months and months now about getting the house ready to sell and getting it sold, getting it on the market, getting it offered, getting it not my problem anymore, and I've been busting my butt. My wife has recently changed jobs, and because of the way paychecks and things like that worked, she wound up with basically an extra paycheck out of the blue that she wasn't planning on, and decided to go extra on her Christmas shopping. She knew that I'd been looking at this Anvil Foundry for quite a while, and said, "Well, okay, I'm just going to get that for you." And,
nice.
This will be a big gift, and this might also be your birthday present next year. But I know you've been wanting this, so I'm going to get
as well as your Easter present and next Christmas present. Yeah. I've been there and done that.
It's a 10-gallon Anvil Foundry. It retails about $400.
Wow.
And
nice.
I can hardly argue with her on that one.
Yep.
But yes, it's definitely upping my brew game by quite a bit, because for the longest time I did the whole the keggle, where you cut up a keg and turn it into a kettle on a propane burner in the backyard, brewing the bag style. And that worked. I got some great brackets out of that. But, the temperature control was always an issue, and just kind of a pain in the ass hanging out there, keeping the fire burning. But the biggest pain in the ass, I will say, bar none, was just cleaning up all the soot that accumulated on the bottom and the sides of the kettle from the burner. Just burning all that propane for so long, that added easily an extra half hour, 45 minutes to the end of cleanup that, I'm kind of excited not to deal with. And
so explain this thing. So exactly what is it? It's more than just a kettle, right?
Right. So basically, this is a single unit system, much like a Grainfather, or there's 3 or 4 of them out on the market here. There are a few nice factors about this one that were really attractive to me. For one, it runs on 120 volt and 240 volt interchangeably. You can literally, with a flip switch, you can just go to, if you've got a plug for your stove or your dryer or something like that, and you do the adapting, you can run it on that power and literally get to your mash and your boil temperatures twice as fast.
So when Sheila comes to you and says, honey, how come the dryer doesn't work? And you say, oh, gee, well, my kettle's plugged into it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, we have a gas dryer, but yes. Yeah,
oh, okay.
So we'll get to this as to, I have not actually brewed with this yet. I've been running it through its paces, and I've discovered a couple things that were a little bit problematic, and I'm kind of glad I just did a whole, okay, let's take water to mash and to boil and, do this and that and the other so we can figure this out. But yeah, no, basically it's got a little onboard display computer system that it will, you can program it to, whatever your mash in temperature you want is. You can set a delay on it. So for example, I can come home, I can fill it up with water, put a little delay on it and say, okay, I want this at my mash temperature at 9 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
That way, when Owen goes to bed, I get all my stuff together, I come downstairs, and it's right mash in. Don't even need to wait for that.
Wow.
It'll just be ready for me. So that's the plus. Then it's got a very nice grain basket that holds, I think, in the order of 14 to 16 pounds of grain. Obviously, that depends on the kind of grain, of course. But there's still plenty of space in there for anything but the most aggressive of brandy wines and imperial whatsits and whatnots. Yeah. So I think I could definitely make a good 5-gallon batch of just about anything I wanted to with it.
Nice.
And it also has a stainless steel cooling system. Now, you're still hooking this up to a garden hose or some kind of other water source to run it through the system. But it includes that with it as well, which is a little bit nicer than the copper coil cooler that I had before.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's a really nice system. I've discovered, however, there are a couple problems just putting it through its paces. For one, the advantage to having a propane burner is that lifted my kettle up. So if I connected a hose to a little spout at the end of the kettle and let it run into my fermenter, that was not a problem.
Oh, wow.
This is on the ground. And the spout is right at the bottom, maybe 3 or 4 inches off the ground. I'd say 4 inches off the ground. So there's really not a good way to get it out of the spout. Now, they sell an additional
pump?
A little pump system. Yeah. Well, the idea of it is to pump work from the bottom of your mash tun back over the top and kind of do a sparging run. Where you're basically constantly feeding water through the system, and it's always flowing through to take liquid off the grain. But you can also use that to pump into your primary fermenter when you're done. I'm definitely going to have to invest in that soon because I don't know of another way to do this. Table,
Yeah, could you, I'm a local welder in town or something, could you, put together some kind of a metal rack, you can get it up high enough off the ground to be able to get away without having to use a pump, or is that not a...
That's a possibility. I don't even think I need to go that far. I think honestly, so one of the nice things about this, I've gotten it up to a boil, and I can honestly say I can put my hand on the side of this thing, even down near the burner, and I can comfortably just leave my hand there.
Yeah.
It's insulated enough that you can handle the outside of it. So I think it would be safe just putting it on a wooden tabletop, to be honest.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Which, for something that's boiling water, that's pretty nice. Okay, I can deal with that.
Excellent.
So that's one problem. The other problem I ran into, and this would be a bigger deal breaker on a brew day, is so at my house there are two places I could see with needing to have access to a garden hose to cool it, a good place to brew, either the garage or the back deck. By some kind of weird coincidence, the power outlet for the garage and the back deck are on the same circuit. And I discovered this because the foundry is apparently powerful enough to trip that circuit.
Yeah, as long as everything else, like the refrigerator and everything else that you had, or I don't know if you got a refrigerator.
Anything else on that circuit?
Anything else on that circuit? Yeah.
So, as I was doing the first test run of this, I got up to about 112 degrees, towards the strike water temperature, but not there yet. And the kitchen light and the bathroom light and the garage and the back deck light all go out. And I'm like, son of a...
I got you.
So we may be getting that 240 line powered into the circuit breaker sooner than later here, just so that I have a stable outlet to work with. Yeah,
it wouldn't be hard because it's already at your breaker box. They just need to wire a 240 breaker in there and run the line over to wherever you want the plug, basically. So,
right. Well, and I figure I'm savvy enough to at least put it in the outlet box and run the line.
Yeah, I mean that's not that hard. Yeah,
should do the wire up so that everything is up to code.
Yeah, and then that's cool. That's actually pretty cool. I'm glad you got your new toy and are happy with it. Now, Ryan,
let's just brag up this.
Yeah, Ryan, on the other hand, he apparently is doing some old school propane kettle stuff with some new school whatever. I'm not quite sure what the new school is, Ryan, unless it's something like extract brewing or something. I don't know. What's going on with the old school and the new school?
What was the new school part of that?
School was my toy.
Oh, then that's what I said. And sometimes I.
I see. Oh, so that was all one thing, Ryan. Oh, okay, yeah. I got it. Jeff has a new toy.
Comparing the old way and the new way. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Getting closer all the time.
You know what? I've got a pretty damn good excuse. I'm like so old. My mind sometimes just runs in at one speed anymore. So it's cool. So I get it. So Jeff is new school, Ryan is old school. So what's the
more ways than one?
Yeah, well, gosh, it's glad to be back. So all right. So shall we move on to the social club then?
Well, don't you want to hear about the old school?
Well, okay, so tell me about the old school.
There's no school like the old school.
There's no school like the old school. So
a couple of weeks ago, we had a really the last nice warm day here at Mead House North, and I had a handful of neighborhood guys over, and we're sitting on the back deck. And drinking my braggots and other meads as well, and smoking cigars and having a good time. I said, I gotta brew a batch. I'm behind. I gotta brew a batch. I gotta get going. So I got out the propane tank, 15-gallon or 15-pound propane tank.
Yeah.
The burner, the Blickman, 80,000 BTU anvil burner, and the 15-gallon kettle. So I have the 15-gallon kettle on there, and mine has a gauge so you can see how much liquid's in it from the outside, and it's got a temperature gauge on it on the outside, and then it's also got that spigot, so like Jeff saying, you can run a hose, into your fermenter. And I said, I gotta brew. I gotta brew here. I gotta get going. And I wanted to do a smash ash. I think we're calling those the smash beer is a single malt and single hop and single honey. So smash ash.
Smash ash.
Single malt. Yeah, single malt. Yeah, say. Make sure you emphasize the H in that, or somebody's going to think you're calling them a name.
Yeah.
But the single malt, single hop, and single honey, but I wanted to get some depth. I really wanted to get some depth, so I started with I think 11 pounds of Pilsen malt, and I filled up to about, I didn't go all 15 gallons, but, more than 10 gallons in there. So, the total thing is probably total about 10 gallons high or so, and maybe more, and we got the 11 pounds of Pilsen malt, now, working in there. That's, now boiling. I'm on the boil stage. I should clarify that. Boil stage. And I boiled it down over, 4 or 5 hours. And I got it down to like 3 gallons. So dropped this down. And it got caramely, dark and caramely. And I had hops. So what I've done is when I do the Ryan braggots, a lot of those hops I throw in are right at the end of boil. So sometimes later than that. Sometimes I drop them in when the temperature is like 180 or something. So they're holding on to a lot. Those hops are holding on to a lot of bitterness, a lot of alpha acids in there, and other oils. And so I, again, the waste not, want not we had talked about. And so I'd take those hops out that had just kind of been sitting, giving off all their aromas, and I'd put them in a freezer bag, and I'd throw them in the chest freezer. Well, I took them all out. I did them kind of a freezer clean out. I took all of them out, and I threw them in a big, strainer bag, basically, and boiled them. So I was working on the bitterness. That's all I cared about. I just want to get the bitterness out of them. And I know it's going to be tough to get the exact IBUs, but that's not a problem. That's okay. And we're not trying to be too clinical on this one. And I brought it down, cooled it down, put it on 5 pounds of orange blossom, 5 pounds of orange blossom honey. Big one. Used a big yeast, the San Diego super yeast, and I'm gonna throw it on those rum chips, those Scotch soaked rum chips.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw those in there and see how that goes.
Oh wow.
But now I'm kind of getting too far into what I was making, and that wasn't the point of where I was trying to go with this. Where you're trying to go is how does it is the social aspect of brewing. I had 7, 8 guys over here, drinking braggots, drinking meads, smoking cigars, sitting out in the back. And you get this, the big kettle boiling away for 4 or 5 hours, and we're just out there. We're out there, we're hanging out, we're being social. Different times, 2, 3 guys are standing around the kettle talking about brewing, talking about what they want to do, or other guys that aren't familiar with it are learning about it. And there is just that social aspect of brewing, and there are different things that bring people into the hobby, into the mead making hobby, the brewing hobby. I mean, yeah. Sean's talking about how this guy used to make meads by stirring his arm in the must, and the yeast off his arm hairs are what would ferment it. And there's that social part to it. So yeah. It's a little bit different when you're, if you make it a chore, right? Oh, I got to get downstairs. I got to brew. Or, oh, I got to do this. I got to brew. And I think that's what Jeff was getting at, because there are pluses and minuses. The plus for me is it's sitting around, it's being social, it's having a fun time. The negative is, I got to drag all this equipment. I got to fire it up. I got to lug it around. I got to make a bunch of time for it. I got to make sure it's the right situation. Where Jeff, I mean, he gets to hit a button and come back and mash, or hit a button, and do what he has to do, boil. So, but then at the same time, Jeff said it doesn't exactly give you the same ambiance when sitting around a basement with a couple other guys, over an enclosed mechanical device that's just humming along.
Right.
So
it's not like we're playing lawn games or watching a fire. We're just looking at a stainless steel cylinder. Like, okay, it's doing stuff.
Yeah, but but you can start the thing, go back to the card table, and Parcheesi or whatever the hell. I know you're into one of those. I know you're kind of one of those game. Is it kind of an adult game thing or something you do, Jeff? Some kind of a group you belong to or something?
My wife and I do tabletop role playing. We also do, and I say board games.
Yeah, board games
like Monopoly or
something like that. So
there's this burgeoning hobby that is board games these days that we're deep into these days. But board games have grown up with me. It seems like compared to Monopoly and Life and all the classic, Hasbro games you played growing up.
Yeah, but I think either way kind of brings. You can do, whatever you want with either one. I mean, you can make a social event either way, I think. So, but good stuff, both of you. I mean, for me, it's just whenever I get a hair under my ass and I got to go do something like make a brew. It's just, I have no guide. I have no calendar. I have no... it's just when I get a burr under my butt and I feel like making a brew. So that's kind of what that boils down to for me. I mean, it's a simple life for me, I guess. But on the other hand, let's do a couple of social clubs here while we've got some time left. Remember, this is where we try to answer questions from mead makers with no formal expertise other than what each one of us, have experienced in our own brew house. So this first one, guys, you know what? You don't even need honey. Okay. I mean, let's read this.
Well, let's get the question out first, Jeff.
Yeah. Advice on making mead for college party use. I can go a lot of different directions here, but it says, hi, I'm looking to make mead as a cheaper alternative to liquor and beer. As much as I respect the history and craft behind mead making, my goal is to produce high-end ABV 15 to 20% or higher in a relatively short period of time, like 2 weeks or less. Taste is not a priority, though it should be drinkable. Do you have any Okay, so here's my recommendation. Forget the honey. All right, 5 pounds of sugar, water, yeast. That's all you need. Okay, when it gets all done, mix it in with some fruit juice. Stick a straw in the punch bowl. That's all you got to do.
Preach.
Huh?
I said preach.
I mean, holy crap. All right, Ryan. Looking to make a mead, cheaper alternative to liquor and beer. This thing just cracks me up. How would you approach this?
Well, let's see. He said that I want to get this right again here. That taste is not a priority. Taste is not
but should be drinkable.
It should be drinkable. Taste is not a priority. Those are talk about the mutual exclusivity of those statements. It reminds me a little bit of in college. Once in a while there'd be these Wapatui parties. We'd make a Wapatui. You take a cooler. Basically a cooler, and you'd fill it up with all the lot of different liquors, usually a lot of cheap liquors, and or anything if you had to clean out. Like a lot of these were around times people had to move out of their houses. College rentals, college rental lease times up, and you throw all the random bits of booze in a cooler, and usually some random fruits, and then maybe some juice or Kool-Aid or soda pop or something just to sweeten it up. And drink it. Now, with that, taste was not an issue, right? Taste was not an issue, but man, it sure was. I guess it was drinkable. So, again, making yeast. He wanted to be strong too. Didn't he say I want it to be 15 to 20% in a relatively short time of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right, so we can make fun of this guy, and we probably should make a little more fun of him just for the heck of it. But if we wanted to actually approach this as at face value, what would you do? It's try to make a 2 week high alcohol, not award winning, but drinkable mead. Well, I think the couple things you'd do is you'd probably want to do like a Tosna, protocol. You'd use different nutrients. You'd degas. You might, you got to use the right kind of yeast. Like maybe a champagne yeast or something like that.
Yeah.
And you'd want to do it now. And you could. I think you absolutely could in 2 weeks make probably a 15% mead that'd be drinkable, or maybe even a little bit higher. That's drinkable. Again, not award winning. But, if he's saying this, I also don't think he's the type of guy who's going to take gravity readings and want to, measure out, grams of Fermento and that kind of thing.
Right.
So here's the other thing I'd consider doing is get your bucket, assuming he's a bucket guy. Get your bucket, put your honey in there, put your water in there, front load all your nutrients, and then drop in some turbo yeast. And drop in some turbo yeast and watch. You might end up with rocket fuel, but it's going to be, it's going to be high alcohol, and it's going to be, I guess, drinkable. He might find himself putting in some powdered Kool-Aid, in the back end, but I've seen other mead makers, do worse. So,
yeah.
Funny question. It's fun to have these once in a while and talk to them from different angles.
I had to read it twice.
Not trying to get too serious about it.
I had to read it twice, Jeff. I thought, who in the hell put this in there? Okay, so here's my deal real quick. All right, 13, 15 pounds of honey. I'd use 11, 16, 11, 18. Those are barn burners. Okay, Throw all your nutrients in up front. Now, don't even worry about the Tosna crap. Just do it all up front. Because that 11, 16, 11, 18, that's going to burn through that honey like you wouldn't believe. And in a couple of weeks' time, rack it once, throw it in a bottle or put it in a punch bowl and be done with it. You want to add some fruit to it, dump some fruit juice in or some kind of a concert like cherry concentrate or something, and that's it. What do you think?
Two comments here. For one, several years ago on Facebook forums, I know there were a number of people that I gave no amount of crap to about cutting their honey bill with table sugar. If you don't care about the taste, why not? Honey isn't cheap. If you're going for cheaper alcohol, and your primary sugar source is honey. Yeah. I'm sorry. Honey isn't cheap. But, cut it 1-to-1 with table sugar, you're going to cut down the cost by a lot. Just that alone. And if you don't care about the fact that it tastes a little winey or cidery, kind of aftertaste from all that table sugar, gives a shit, right?
Well, of course, you could always charge a cover charge, right?
Can and should, yes. Thought number two, if you really want a high alcohol drink that tastes of honey, go to Costco. The Costco by me has a 1.75 liter of vodka for under $20 and 5 pounds of honey for, I think, 12. Put a little honey in your vodka and, dilute with the fruit juice of choice. you are golden, sir. And that took you an hour tops, including the trip to and from Costco.
College kids, they drink anything, right? Back in my day, it was Boone's Farm.
Night Train.
Like, Boone's Farm, just that was like drinking Kool-Aid with vodka in it. I mean, give me a break. Oh, my God. Okay. Somewhere along the way, you college kids, you're going to learn the finer points of life. Can't wait till you get there.
My honest hope is that I turn my son into a beer snob before he goes to college, so that he goes to like a kegger like Miller Lite.
What's awful. That crap? Yeah, who drinks that crap?
Does anybody have any IPAs?
Yeah. Shit.
He's not going to be popular, but he's going to avoid the DUIs.
Oh yeah, and Ryan's kids, they're all gonna be looking at wine lists like, what's this shit? Oh my God, holy shit! Oh, I don't know. Is it quitting time yet? What do we got? Time for one more? Holy shit! All right, here's an easy one. I'm interested in purchasing a large fermenter, preferably 30 gallons, for future large batches. Does anybody have any suggestions for what they personally use? The fermenters, it's not a question you want to ask the meat house for sure. The fermenters that I see online are mainly marketed for beer, but I found that what is marketed for beer typically works for meat as well. You're right there. A fermenter is a fermenter for anything you want to ferment. Hell, if you want to make 30 gallons worth of sauerkraut, that'll work too. I've been looking at this one in particular. I know the one he's looking at. It happens to be the CF30 from Spike Brewing. I highly recommend their equipment, by the way. But I wanted to see what others had to say first. Okay, a 30-gallon tank. I mean, come on, 30 gallons is 30 gallons. You can make mead in a 30-gallon trash bucket in a stainless steel fermenter. It doesn't matter. If you're just looking for a container to ferment in, hell, if you go to Italy, okay, they use these big blue barrels, plastic barrels, to make their wine in, to ferment their wine in. So it doesn't have to be anything, expensive or shiny or new. You can ferment in whatever you want to ferment in, as long as it's appropriate plastic. You want to look into that. But the particular one, the CF30 that Spike Brewing has, I like Spike Brewing's equipment. I would recommend those. But if you're looking to spend that kind of money, by all means, go that way. Jeff, what do you think? 30 gallons, dude. Wow.
30 gallons is not a small amount.
No.
So Spike, SS Brewtech, they have great options. And stainless steel, comparatively to, using plastic or glass, the cleanup, the durability, I am sold. That's what I want to work with. Yeah. If I can make it happen. I still brew in plastic. I still brew in glass, but that stainless steel, it freaking lasts, and it's so easy to clean up. So yeah, if you're willing to go to that dollar amount to spend for the Spike Brewing conical or whatever you've got on your plate there, go for it. You will not be sad, because that sucker's going to last for as long as you and the person you resell that conical to have any interest in this hobby. Yeah. It's durable as hell. That said, those blue HDPE plastic barrels, you can get those dirt cheap. Yeah. I've found them on Craigslist by me for in the neighborhood of $30 to $50, and you get it good and clean, you are golden to ferment in that. For those of you who have been listening to the show for a long time, you guys know the guy that first told me how to make mead was literally doing it in 55-gallon oil barrels. Obviously, they had oil, but you can brew in just about anything as long as it's clean and it's not going to impart any off flavors.
you know, the only other thing that I would add to this is cleanup. You know, cleaning a 30-gallon. You just, you know, I mean, everything's got a limited amount of cleanup that you're going to have to do after the fact, right? So, cleaning a 30-gallon fermenter. You know, I mean, if you're up for that, fine. I mean, you know, it's a large vessel, unless you've got, you know, I mean, certainly it's not something you're going to do in the bathtub. Okay. So, you know, that's probably something you're going to do outside with a water hose if you've got, you know, that kind of space, I guess. Ryan, 30 gallons, dude. What do you suggest?
So I guess I don't understand exactly. Is he just trying to ferment 30 gallons of stuff, or does he want a 30-gallon fermenter?
It doesn't specify. It just says purchasing a large fermenter, probably 30 gallons for future large batches.
Well, so that's the thing that got me a little bit. It says for future large batches. You know, I've done some large batches before. You know that you do. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of like boiling. You know, you do a big batch and you end up having to do multiple boils and that kind of thing. Anyway, yeah, that's a lot of stuff. I mean, 30 gallons is a lot. I'll tell you, I got a cousin who makes wine. You know, from grapes. He's part of does these grape buys. You know that. Like a truck, you know, a grape truck, you know, comes in, you know, Sauvignon grapes or Cabernet grapes or whatever, and they do all that. And he uses basically kind of like you're talking about, you know, the trash, almost like a big trash container. You know, buys a brand new trash container from the you know, the home hardware store type thing, and sanitizes it and does it in there. Yeah. I don't know how many gallons he does it in there, but it's big, and he makes pretty good wine. So, you know, it's, I'm not trying to be coy here, but I've never contemplated making a batch that big. I think the biggest fermenter I ever had was a 20-gallon, and I only did one or two things in that, and I got rid of it. And so I've never tried to explore the way I would approach a 30-gallon ferment. But I know the wine guys do that a lot, so you can definitely look at the way they're doing it. If I don't stop, JB, I'm just going to keep rambling, so I better stop.
So there's I will say for the spikes or the SS Brutex, there is such a thing as the CIP or clean in place system. Basically, you have a little spray head that sits at the top of the tank.
Yeah.
If you're fermenting that big, getting something with the CIP system will save you ungodly amounts of time.
Yeah, a lot.
If you value your time more than just the outlet of your pocketbook, that might be a worthwhile investment right there, because you know, taking that big blue bucket out and scrubbing all the yeast crap out of it and making sure everything is, you know, good and clean, and then sanitized, that takes some time. Running a CIP system for 10 minutes and then running sanitizer through it,
you're done.
Takes a lot less time and a lot less effort. So you know, it's a cost versus time kind of a constraint there.
You know, and when it talks 30 gallons, okay, now I usually brew, I have a kegerator that has, actually it'll hold 4 kegs, but I've only got, 4 taps, 3 are used. So at any given time, I'd have 15 gallons of something on tap. Now that lasts a long time. Okay, even with my neighbors, all right, 15 gallons of whatever I got on tap is a lot. Okay, I've had kegs in the kegerator for 6-7 months, or even longer on occasion. That, you know, until we get to the bottom of it. And believe me, that includes my neighbors. I got 4 or 5 neighbors that, you know, frequently enjoy, coming over, and we pour a few beers on tap and drink them up. but it's not like every day. So 15 gallons, it lasts a long time in my house. So 30 gallons, make sure you got a way to get rid of it, because unless you're going to bottle it and store it somehow, there's some issues on that that you might want to read up to, how you're going to bottle it, corks, that whole 9 yards. We've talked about that on the show before. You know, how some corks just don't last as long as others, storing it at the proper temperature. There's a whole lot that comes into play when you're going to do large batches like that, if you're not going to move them out, like a meadery would, okay, or a brewery would. So, I mean, if you're talking a home brewer that wants to brew 30 gallons of mead, what are you going to do with it?
You better be brewing something good, because man, I get a 5-gallon batch and go, man, I'm sick of this already. What do I brew something else?
Yeah, so that would concern me. But hey, what the hell? Who am I? Geez, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up right there. And I still have the old notes. Hey, you want to get on the show? We've had a couple of listeners on so far. Kyle Ducharme or Laura Scott. Hey, it's easy enough. Just let us know what you're brewing. Email us info@themeadhouse.com and send us a message on Facebook or Twitter, both at The Mead House, and we'll get that date set up and talk to you about your brewing projects. I still have like episode 214 listed here, but anyway, hey, it's been a good night. Big shout out to Sean Harris for joining us tonight, and we're absolutely going to have him on again. We only got ankle deep with the mead making that he does. We'd like to get neck deep and find out what else he's got going on with that Hawaiian honey over there. And I got to get me some of that for sure. So thank you, Sean, for joining us here at the Mead House. So with that, hey, Ryan, why don't you flip the lights off? Jeff slammed the door shut. Hey, we'll see you next week for, what is it, what is this episode?
This is 215. Next week's 216.
216. So we'll see you back here for 216 next week. Hang on to your hat, guys. Hey, we'll be back. We're gone.